Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the Thought Thinking Show. It's a privilege and an honor to have all of you, my viewers, to the show. So today we have guests that that are on set, and we are going to discuss several things that affect us in our society. And so I believe you'll be ready. In case of any comments, in case of any questions, just put your questions on the comment section below, and do not forget to subscribe and share widely. Welcome to the show. I have some questions for you, and I'm really grateful for your time. I know you had you are busy in other things, but thank you for making time to come to the Thought Thinking Show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure
Thank
to
you
be
very
here.
much.
Yeah, so to begin with, Abraham, maybe I can begin with you.
Yeah.
What is your standing with Christ as you introduce yourself?
Okay. I'm Abraham Wakiaga. I'm a fourth year law student at African Nazarene University. I think that's quite a good question, especially in relation to your show.
Mm-hmm.
My standing with Christ is something that I'm quite proud of, and I'm a born again Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's been a walk of faith for years, and every day I believe it's just a gift to be able to just get periods of fellowship, whether it's with family through devotion or even with just friends. And I believe the best book I've ever read has to be the Bible. So my standing with Christ, if I was to give it a grade out of 10, probably I'd say 7, 8. Maybe the other two, God can
Yeah.
God can be the one to judge that.
Mhm.
But I do have a solid foundation in Christianity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, now.
Thank you. So thank you for your question. My name is Melvin Kioko Malemba, and I'm a fourth year law student, student leader at African Nazarene University, the current vice chair and incoming chair of the ANU Mentorship Board. So my standing with Christ is simple. I'm just carrying out my salvation with fear and trembling,
Mhm.
to say the least.
Yes.
But I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, I believe in the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Yes.
So, as you know, we've gone through a tough period of COVID-19.
Yeah.
So I would like to hear your views on the improvements. You know, there's always, in the midst of chaos or in the midst of challenges,
Yeah.
there must always be, a silver lining.
Yeah.
So I will wish to know what are the improvements you've learned, or what are the lessons you've learned during this COVID-19 period.
Yeah. Personally, I believe it's been a point of reflection.
Yes.
And also it's come with a sense of healing for myself. I've come to learn the value of the relations between us as human beings, because I look at my period in campus, I was always up and down, and there were a lot of things to do. There were deadlines to meet in regard to assignments, and of course the responsibilities that come about with the different positions that we get within the student leadership.
Mhm.
Nonetheless, with this I've been able to, let me say, better my relationships. Maybe my friends can attest to that, and also my family also. But that's my biggest takeaway from all of this, that there's a lot of value in human relations. And I hope that's something that, as we come out of this period, we will recognize and will take initiative to better, even if things get back to normal as they used to be.
Okay, yes.
Oh, thank you. I think for me, there's a plethora of what I've learned, but what stood out for me is that I didn't need a pandemic, I didn't need a crisis to teach me anything.
Mhm.
I should have had foresight of anything,
Yes.
I think there's that sense of entitlement and what else? I think, is it the taking for granted of life and
Mhm.
things we do daily,
Yeah.
like meeting friends outside,
Mhm.
going to the library,
Yeah.
and all these things. So it has taught me that I didn't need a pandemic. I should have been, like, for now I'm more educated than I've ever been before.
Yeah.
I've discovered reading, that's why I came with a book.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think I would recommend this book to anybody who
Mhm.
wants to grow.
What's the
And
title of the book?
It's called A Good General by Dagiwad Mills.
Okay.
And I think I've also discovered that when you read, you actually become better as a person.
Mm.
And I discovered that God himself, I think even Christ addresses himself as he's addressed as the author and finisher of our faith.
Yeah.
So, and if God didn't like books, he wouldn't have written the Bible. So I'm discovering there's power in knowledge, there's power in relationships, like Abraham is saying. I think during this pandemic, grown closer,
Yeah.
we've collaborated more, and this is proof of
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. So all of us here, we are from African Nazarene University,
Yes.
and the university itself is grounded with Christian values, foundation, and stuff like that. So, and you guys are 4th years, you're about to finish, I think, in the coming year,
Yeah.
to become lawyers.
Definitely.
So what makes you different from others outside there?
Would you like to go first?
Yeah.
What makes
Yeah.
me different?
Mhm.
I think the fact that I have gone to African Nazarene University,
Yeah.
which prides itself in being a Christian university, and aside from that, it embraces the liberal arts, like Ayub had said
Yes.
previously, which is a big thing.
Mhm.
If someone like Steve Jobs embraced the liberal arts, I think any young person who is in university should choose a university like ANU, which has taken that into consideration. And I think what makes me different as a lawyer also is that the fact that I've met some people in school, like the dean himself, our law school dean, and all these people, the lecturers, the community, and I think that's it for me. And
Yeah.
the friends too, because you can't like make it as a lawyer alone.
Yeah.
That's what I'm discovering, and that is what will make me different, because I've already known that look, you need to make collaborations if you want to go far.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's all.
Yes, Abraham.
Yeah, in the same spirit, I'm reminded of the 3 core values of our university. That's character, competence, and community. And I believe the 2 things that stand out there for me, in as much as competence is quite important,
Yes.
the 2 things that stand out for me are the community aspect and the character aspect. And I think that's what makes us different as lawyers who are going to graduate quite soon, because it's important that we go into this field with the right character. We need to have the ethics that make us different. The society at large is generally skeptical about lawyers. If you check social media and why are you defending criminals? Those are the kind of questions that are asked. And that puts a moral obligation upon us to ensure that even those we represent, we're representing for the right reasons. And Ayub in his previous show, he talked about justice. And that's one of the things we really need to emphasize on as we graduate, as we live, and we go and practice. And in regard to community, I think Melvin has said enough. There's a saying that if you run alone, you're going to run fast. But when you run together, we run far. And I think that's what we've been learning during this period, and we hope to take into the world once we've graduated. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we have 4 types of men. Philosophy dictates that. And the first type of man is this man who is dominated by reason and logic. The second type of man is the one that is dominated by success, and public acclaim. The third, type of man is the one that is dominated by money and material gain. And then the fourth type of man is this kind of man who is dominated by God himself fully, like the savior is in charge of his own life. So what type of man are you, in basing it on the 4 types of men that I've highlighted?
Of course I'll be biased, and I'll say I'm the 4th man.
Yes.
Why
do you think you're the
why I believe I'm the 4th man? As I pointed out earlier, I have gotten the opportunity, or rather the privilege, of growing up in a home that has given me a very strong Christian foundation. And it's not only through word of mouth or just the theory of it, but also the practice of it. How I interact with people, the kind of decisions that I make, how I act, what I'm talking about, the actions, how I act around others, those who may not do anything for me. Am I compassionate with them, for example? How do I relate to the lowest person within society? Just the small things that really define the kind of character that you have. Again, it's a biased view. Probably others would be in a much more better position to judge for that. But I would like to state it boldly and in an assertive manner. That's why I believe I am at the moment.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a very deep question, which also requires a very deep answer. But I think I'm also the 4th man. But I think I've been through the other 3, because it's like a pilgrim. You are just growing in Christ. You're growing in God. I think there's that thing there's a triangle we call the Abraham's Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Of need, yes.
Yeah.
And if you are at where you need materialism, you are like at the lowest food, what? If you go and reach to reason and logic, you are like a step further than the person who is concentrating on success, money, and all things. But if you reach the peak, that's where you are actually meet God. And that's why I think if you have seen the dollar, there's a pyramid which has an eye at the top.
Yeah.
And that eye is called the all-seeing eye. That's where you meet God himself. Once you are at the top of the peak, it's like a pilgrim. But I would say I'm a work in progress. But I'm definitely somebody who God is in charge of. Anything in my life has to be like, what is God's opinion on this? What is God saying? Understand? Like most people will view life as a journey, and some people will view it as something meaningless. The nihilists will say it's meaningless, but for me, life is an assignment given to you by God, and so he's the one to lead you.
Okay.
That's my view.
Okay. Basing it on the 4 types of man that I've highlighted, where do you think our politicians fit?
I think that's a fairly obvious question, because they tend to categorically fit into the 2 men. That's actually the middle 2 men. That's the men after success, public appearance,
Public acclaim.
Money and the likes, power and such things. Material gain, yes. And for me, I don't see any politician who stands out in that regard. There are a few who might seem to stand out. I don't mention the names, but that's where majority of the Kenyan politicians have been, and I think it's also because of the kind of institutions and foundations that built this country. This country was sort of built on greed to a certain degree. It was built on material gain. It was built on having a sort of deep state and all that. So again, I hope things will change. I hope that we are going to be looking at a brighter future very soon, and let's put the country in prayer so that we can have godly leaders who lead us, because when godly leaders are in power, the righteous, they prosper, and the wicked, they tremble and they run away.
Right. In the same vein, I think they are nowhere near God. Politicians in Kenya, generally speaking, they are not near God, so they must be in the 3 categories of men you said earlier. Because if Christ, who was the God-man, showed us what is leadership, he washed the disciples' feet. He told them
He was a servant leader.
He was a servant leader, but there's no servant leadership in Kenya. Maybe hustler leadership, but there's no servant leadership. And they are into public acclaim. They want grandiose, grandiose positions to suit themselves so that they be known. Me, I'm the man in power. There is no logic in whatever they are doing. There's a minister who is in charge of education, and we are not sure what is happening, because he will say this, next day he will say that. And James 1:8 says that a double-minded person is unstable in all his ways. I think that's what, there's no God factor in the politicians we have, in the kind of breed of politicians we have in Kenya. If you compare it to America, which we always like to compare when it suits us, somebody like Trump, who is openly Christian, Joe Biden is also, I think, Presbyterian or something. These are people who are actually, you can say there's some iota of godness or godliness in them, but some people here, they can contribute to churches, they can do all sorts of things, but we don't see it. You understand? I think that's why Mahatma Gandhi had a problem with Christians. He told them that if I'm going to accept Christians with the kind of behavior I see if I'm going to accept Christ from what the way Christians behave, then I will never want to be near Christ. Because if these are the people who are claiming to be Christians, then what is Christianity really? Yes.
Okay. So recently, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, yesterday, the Chief Justice asked the President to dissolve Parliament. So do you think that decision is right, or is it a pedestrian decision, as one of the senior counsel tweeted?
Yes.
Maybe Abraham can begin.
Of course, there are quite a number of legal technicalities that arise with interpretation of that article of the Constitution. And we may not manage to, of course, debate those technicalities. but I believe the specific objective of that article was to ensure there's equality in terms of genders. You know, what kind of responsibilities and roles are we giving to men and also to women? And that's why the challenge is coming in, because this article had a certain objective, but again with it, there's a lot of politics that comes about with its implementation or lack of implementation, all in all. So I'm not quite sure. I wouldn't tell you that I side with the CJ with what is decided to do, or rather his advisory opinion. For me, I would like to delve further into the technicalities, as I'm talking about, because what's been raging in the social media space is about what the word shall refers to. Is it maybe, or is it that the president must dissolve parliament? But in my view, it will all come down to politics. What are the political interests of the president and his cronies, so that they decide that they are adopting a certain interpretation to favor their course of action. But I believe it is important that equality of both men and women is something that we have to achieve as a society. We are in the 21st century. Things have changed, and patriarchy is something that needs to be addressed, understood, and the weaknesses that come about with it need to be debated within the public space.
Right. I think Kiaga has addressed the legal part. I want to address the layman's part. You know, I want to believe the CJ had goodwill for advising, because that's what the Constitution says. The CJ shall, it's Article 261, the CJ shall advise the President to dissolve Parliament. And the word shall has brought a lot of contention, but I think there's a Supreme Court judge in America was passed away recently. I think her name is Ruth. Yeah. She had said in one of her books that the word shall must be always interpreted as must. And I think from also my legal systems class, the literal rule is that you should just read the article as it is and take it as it is. But I think I think I should congratulate CJ Maraga for advising the president, because that's his duty according to the Constitution. And now the ball is on Uhuru's court. And whether he decides to dissolve parliament or not, I think that's not the meta problem. That's one of the problems. But the meta problem is, if we are going back to elect leaders, do you think we will have 2/3 gender rule applied again? Or we'll just have people elected, and then the CJ will advise, then we'll go around in circles as we've been going in this country. So what we should deal with is the empowerment of sexes or genders. Because that is what is not happening. Because women are told run for office. They are even given 47 women rep direct, and then I think one also for women, youth and marginalized communities. But there's still no representation. I think it's only 20% in this parliament. In the term, it was about 9%. Even after affirmative action, I think if women or whatever some feminists purport to say that they're empowering women, they should run against men and see, okay, you run against this man and then you got the seat. So there should be no affirmative. We should empower the women. I believe women are very good managers. When the pandemic struck, the countries which were on top, which would manage,
New Zealand and Germany.
Women, even your mom, if she goes away for some weeks, you'll see how you'll suffer.
The house will be in disarray.
I'm for women empowerment. We can't enforce women empowerment. We can't legislate people's hearts. We can't legislate empowerment. We have to teach it and educate our women on their rights. That's my thoughts.
So, what are your views about young Christians who would wish to delve into politics? Do you have any advice for them? Like you guys, do you have any ambitions, for example, to maybe lead this country in any capacity in the future? Again, you can answer that as you answer also the first part. Briefly,
That's quite a good question, in all honesty. I think it's tough to be a Christian, young or old, and to delve into politics. But probably it's harder when you're young because of the way the system is designed. It's not a very ethical system. it's not a system based on merit by any measure. Arguably, that's all over the world. But I know for the Kenyan context, it's not about the merit, it's not about the kind of ideas that you bring to the people. And that means that you may be the smartest person, you may have the best ideas, you may be the most articulate, for example, but simply because you don't have kakitu kidogo to put in people's pockets, you lose that election. Simply because you cannot probably influence an electoral official in your favor, you lose that election. So it's a matter of being optimistic. As I said, I believe that there's a brighter future for us as Kenya, and I believe that there's a crop of young people who are seeing that we have the power to make the difference. Why then should we depend on these, for lack of better words, old guys to bring the difference? They had their chance, but they have failed to a certain degree. And it's for us now to take up this mantle and decide for ourselves the kind of future we're going to design for our benefit and for the benefit of the people who come after us, that's our children. So I believe for any young Christian who wants to take part in politics, by all means, go into it. It's something you shouldn't fear. But you definitely need to be strategic. But it needs a sense of idealism. It needs a sense of you to put away the voices that people are telling you that, this is too difficult for you. It needs you to be that inspirational figure that guys can look up to and tell themselves that this is what we aspire to be, like a role model and a mentor to everyone in society. So for young Christians going into politics, I mean, still with their values, stay strong, stand firm, but always ensure that at the back of your mind, pia unajua vile ground iko, vile ground inafanana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yes.
Okay, very good question. Like I said, I always say it's been done. And people like Martin Luther King Jr. are the people who we should look up to. If you're a young Christian and you are into leadership and you want to go into politics but you are still sitting on the fence, I think you should go for it, because people out here don't have standards. The standard is too low. The kind of politicians that we have very low standards. And as Christians, we are told to be, we are supposed to create examples. That's my view on politics. We are supposed to tell them. I have run for office myself, and although I didn't win, I showed people that actually it can be done.
Which office did you?
I ran for president in African Nazarene University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a small position, but look, it's not easy. I remember when I was standing on the debate and I had not eaten the whole day. And the people, I think my other formidable candidate competitors, they had a lot of manpower. Me, I didn't have it. But once they elected the person they elected, some people texted me, actually, those who didn't vote for me, tell them that you're a good leader, don't stop what you're doing. I have screenshots I can show you. If you come to me, I'll show you the screenshots.
Okay.
People who didn't vote for me told me that, actually, keep what you're doing, you understand? So people are starting to recognize the standard, and young Christian politicians, leaders, should now take up. I mean, like Wakiaga said, we can't keep relying on these old people. I think they have done their part and it's good. And now it's for us to take up the mantle and let's run with it. Let's run with it as young people. That's what I can say.
Okay. I'm sure as Kenyans, as lawyers, you've heard about the Building Bridges initiative. It is actually threatening to polarize the country. There's a division if you're keen. So what are your views about this
personal views about the BBI?
Yeah, personal views,
To be honest, that document is quite lengthy, so I didn't go through all of it when I first came across it. Although now I'm at a crossroads because when the handshake first took place, I believe that it had there was good intention, and there was probably an effort towards reconciliation to ensure that we can end the kind of politics, divisive politics that exists every 5 years during an election cycle. But again, another group of politicians came and they had a different perspective of this same document and this same initiative. And in their view, it was an initiative to bring in more posts and to secure some interests of what have been called the dynasties right now. And now that's a crossroads at which I am at, because it's not quite clear what the intention for of this document is. But there's something that Omar Hassan said. Is it Omar Hassan or Hassan Omar? The politician,
the
who
former
lost.
Senate.
Yes, in 2017 for the governor position. He talked about the fact that what is President Uhuru Kenyatta waiting for if he's talking about inclusivity? Why can't he do it right now? I think that's a very good question.
It's a very
Why should we wait for the BBI to make the government inclusive? To make different positions, to give them to different communities.
Right.
He's the president. It's in his power to do so. And then that means the BBI, to a degree, it might be a scam. We can't be quite sure about its intention. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, this is a very interesting question. I think every night me and my dad, we have to talk about BBI when we're watching news. So is it an animal? What is it? But we're living in times where our politicians' interests come first than the people's interest. The people are the sovereign in Kenya. Kenya is a republic. We are the sovereign. The people, we have the power. And we have only given it to them for them to help us. But what you see is what Dr. Duncan Ojwang says. These leaders are the ones who decide for us when it is the best time to have where they call it a constitutional moment, a referendum moment. Who gave them the power to decide for us when we should have BBI? Who gave them that power to tell them that BBI is good for us? We are the ones to say if BBI is good for us. And he also posed a very good question. The youth were crying that, when this BBI document was being passed around the country, we were not involved. But the document itself says that it involved the society. Are the youth not part of the society? So there's a lot of disconnects. And like Abraham is saying, what is stopping the president from fulfilling what is actually what they are supposed to be doing? Why should we wait up to 2022 to start thinking? Like I said, I have told you before, I have not had any Kenyan mention to me 2023. I've only had 2022. It's like our vision is 2022, and some preacher was comparing it to Saudi Arabia. Their vision now, they are actually thinking of building, I don't know, is it flying cars in the Vision 2060? But us, we had Vision 2030. Do you hear about it? Since Mwai Kibaki left,
yes.
Now our vision is Vision 2020. No one is talking about it. And this is what matters. Look, when you see somebody giving birth outside a hospital, something is completely wrong. And some are saying reggae cannot be stopped, nobody can stop reggae. Look, it's time to change the tune of politics that we have in this country. And it starts with us young people. Whoever you are doing, whether you are in school, whatever area or field of knowledge you come from, it is time that we stood up in a revolution against these purported dynasties and hustler mentalities. These people who call themselves hustlers, okay, they might have hustled, but we are hustling and we are not seeing the fruits that these guys have. That's all I can say.
Okay, so maybe for yes or no, you believe we need a new brand of politics?
I believe we definitely need a new brand of politics.
And,
absolutely.
Okay. Now, finally, this is the last question. Every time we are told the youths, are the leaders of tomorrow, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think this phrase, it has been used over and over and over again? So maybe looking at this camera here, maybe Abraham, you can begin and just give your thoughts, and then you give your final shot as you finish.
At the age of 19, Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook. At the age of 20, Bill Gates created Microsoft. At the age of 21, Steve Jobs created Apple. These are probably the three biggest technology companies, even probably the three most valuable companies we have in the world right now. Yes, they grew up in a different environment, a different social dynamic, different economic period and time, amongst other things. But the fact is, they harnessed the energy of their youth, they harnessed the innovation of their youth, they harnessed the kind of creativity they had and put it to good use. And now that same kind of mentality is something we should employ as young people in the country, whether it matters politics, it matters business, or just our relations amongst one another. We need to realize that being young is a gift, and it's a gift that only comes once. And so we need to make the most out of it and ensure that out of this youth that we have, we can bring benefits not only for ourselves, as I said earlier, but benefits for our children and the children that will come after them. So I would like to encourage young people that even as we go into these election periods, as we go into these periods of politics and the likes, it's very important to ensure that you are engaged, you are in the loop, and you understand what is happening, whether it's matters of the Building Bridges initiative, or whether it's just a social issue. It was so saddening when we saw a young, a lady rather, having to give birth outside the Pomani hospital. It was heartbreaking. And these are the kind of things we need to talk about in the public space, and we need to inform one another and then come together as young people and ensure that when 2022 comes, that we make the right choice on the ballot paper. Otherwise, it was wonderful being here, and I hope I'll be back.
Yeah, sure.
To discuss these issues further.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes.
The youth, we've been told more than many times. We've been told times without number that we are the future leaders, we are the leaders of tomorrow, which is quite the contrary. We are actually the leaders of our destinies, and our destinies is actually in the current, in the present. The only time, no one is assured of tomorrow, so we better seize this opportunity. Now, when the French Revolution came to an end, Napoleon Bonaparte was only 18 years when he became the French consul. There was another king in Egypt. He was called King Tut. He was only 10 years old. Look, it is better, the Bible says it is better a wise young king than an old king who doesn't want to change his mind. And our minds are fresh than these guys who've been there. And it is the best time to take this opportunity. If you are there if you're out there and you're listening to me, please do start now. Start envisioning yourself as the Steve Jobs of Kenya. Start envisioning yourself as the Napoleon Bonaparte. I mean, it's our time to take this thing. They call it this thing.
Yeah, okay.
So that's it.
Thank you very much, guys, for making time to come to the show. I'm looking forward to have you guys again.
Thank you very much.
So I would like to finish up the show by saying these two people here who have graced the show today, they are saying they need Dr. Victor Boyo, the Dean of Students of African Nazarene University, to come to the show, and also you give your views together with people like Pastor Bati and the others. So otherwise, thank you very much. We'll continue discussing. The discussion continues. It does not stop here.
Yes.
We still have the comment section. You can still reach me in any media platform, in Twitter, in Facebook, in IG, anywhere. We can have the discussions together. So do not forget to subscribe, share, and share widely from New York to Embu to Nairobi, everywhere. Share kabisa. Thank you very much, guys. Asanteni sana kwa kukuja.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. God bless.